Hello y'all! This is the tutorial in which I teach you how to live your Disney princess dream. So keep watching. I have a pattern linked below, and I've also included the pattern process in this video. Feel free to slow it down if you need to because I made it a little bit fast. And also the instructions are in the description below as well. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and watch to the end because I did another song. So do enjoy this tutorial. This is a 3XL men's shirt that I found in a vintage shop, and I was super happy to find it because of the length and the color. I've been wanting a pink stripe for so long, and I finally found it in the form of an upcycle, so that's an even bigger bonus. I wanted to maximize my usage of this shirt, so I seam ripped it instead of cutting the seams, and then I ironed the seams flat. I layered the two sides of the front shirt and placed the center front lines of the front bodice and skirt on the center of the butt. So I folded the pattern at the dotted center line. The front bodice shoulder didn't fit on this piece completely, so we will be adding a piece of the back yoke to complete it later. I then folded the back shirt in half and placed the back bodice and skirt on the fold. My sleeve just fit the shirt sleeves at the top, so I laid it there and cut it out. I then had the idea to cut out 3-inch strips from the remaining shirt to piece together for a hem ruffle. I didn't end up doing this, but I would love to see someone try it because I think it would look really cute. I left out the pockets, not because I was lazy, guys, but also I used up all the fabric for my non-existent hem ruffle, and so I didn't want to use a different fabric and then have the color show through. My next video will show a variation on this pattern in some orange gingham fabric, and I'm saying that now because I will be detailing more of these techniques, such as applying the pockets and creating the button front from scratch, so stay tuned for that video. Then starting with the front bodice, I sew the darts. You don't want to end your dart at the drill mark, you end it a 1/2 inch beyond that. Then I took some of the back yoke to piece to the top of the front where it didn't fit on the shirt, and then I sewed them on. You're also going to want to serge the raw edges before piecing everything together. I ironed the darts using a hand because I curved the ends of my darts to make them fit the bust smoothly. Then sew the front and back together at the shoulders. For the sleeve, draw a line to connect your notches that are 2 inches from the hem and sew your bicep length elastic along this line. Next, sew 2 rows of large stitching and gather the sleeve head. Then attach this to the armhole of the dress, matching the front single notch to the front and the back double notch to the back. These notches can get lost in the gathers, so it actually would be helpful to mark them before with a fabric pen. Lastly, sew the underarm and side seams, then hem the sleeve with a double fold. Next, you want to sew the skirt side seams, and this is where you would add the pockets first. If you are going to use pockets, they will line up right up flush to the edge of the top of the skirt. Next, you want to attach the bodice to the skirt waist. This was my first sample. I didn't actually do a muslin sample first, so they didn't align correctly, but if you purchase a pattern, everything will match up properly. I left the hem of the shirt intact, so it's already folded up. Now we move on to finishing the neckline. I'm using some silk bias tape that I made previously. You can buy bias tape, or you can just make it by cutting diagonal strips of cloth, placing them at a right angle on top of one another, and then sewing them diagonally. Then you open these seams and iron them. Then create the folds by feeding them through a bias tape maker. Open up the bias tape and sew at 1/4 inch around the neckline, extending the piece past the edge of the front. You can add a small piece of elastic to the shoulder line to make a more snug fit. I didn't do this for this one, but again, next tutorial. Next, understitch the bias tape to the seam allowance. Then finally, edge stitch the entire bias tape to the bodice, folding under the ends to finish at the front. Next, we need to add extra buttonholes to the shirt. They're just a little too far apart, and I find that they were gaping. So I'm adding one at the top, and the rest I made vertical and placed them in between the other buttons at equal distance. I used my buttonhole setting on my domestic machine to create the buttons. Then cut open the buttons carefully with the seam ripper. You want to cut from one side of the buttonhole to the middle, stop, then cut from the other side to the middle. This way you won't accidentally slip and rip your stitching. It's not fun to fix. Finally, sew on your buttons on the other side, and you've completed your upcycle dress. Woo! Celebrate good times, come on. Okay, and now it is time for the sound of music. Enjoy! The hills are alive with the sound of music, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years. The hills fill my heart with the sound of music. My heart wants to sing every song it hears. My heart wants to beat like the wings of the birds that rise from the lake.
to the trees. My heart wants to sigh like a chime that flies from a church on a